Next thing you can do is actually start spending more time going barefoot so that you can actually start articulating your foot over the earth, and it can feel the changes as you're walking around. Now, you won't have a lot of change if you're indoors like this, but my hope is that you'll take a little journey out into your yard and walk around and feel the sensation of grass and dirt and rocks and little pebbles and big rocks and all these things underneath your foot. And of course, you'll start easily and gently. You won't go walking along a riverbed barefoot right off the gate. But what you can do is go out to the soft grass and actually start doing that, because I'm going to take you back to the floor again. Your foot, okay, so we've got the foot here. So here's where that arch is I was telling you about, the transverse arch or the metatarsal arch. It's supposed to keep this pressed up in, and if not, this hits the ground much harder. But anyways, okay, so your foot is meant to articulate through all of these bones right here. So each phalange comes down to, you know, the ball joint right here, and then you've got metatarsals that come down here, and then the talus and the calcaneus and navicular and a whole bunch of stuff back here. All of these are meant to articulate. And when they can't, because they've gotten stiff from being in socks and shoes and not having the practice, you're less able to move your foot over various surfaces. And you might think, well, Kate, I'm not going to go walking in a riverbed anyways, so who cares? Okay, I know, but like, if you can't do it, then the opportunity, when it presents itself, you will not be able to. And I'm telling you, you will be that person who at some point steps funny or steps wrong or steps off a curb weird, or just something weird happens, steps on a Lego if you have children at home, and you will get injured because your tissue was not capable of adapting to the situation at hand. And that brings up a really good point. Remember, this is from my Dr. Andrea Spina. He's just got so many gems. It's great. I love it. That's part of our FRC coaching that we do. I've talked about it numerous times. Anyways, my favorite slide that he has on his presentation weekend that you attend when you go to take a course is this. One where it shows that the tissue has to be able to handle the load that comes up to it. Otherwise, you end up with an injury. So it's like if you gave me 1,000 pounds and said, bicep curl this, Kate, I would be like, well, I will try, but I will not be able to. And if I tried, I would get injured because my tissue doesn't have the capacity to handle the load with which I just put on it. And your feet are no different. Okay, so if you cannot articulate your foot and your ankle and your toes and all of the ways that they have the potential to, you put yourself at a risk. So the next thing you can start doing, in addition to the big toe and little toe lifts, is to actually start massaging your feet and seeing how much they articulate, and then going for a walk in your grass outside or wherever you can find some space of natural terrain, not necessarily concrete or hardwood floor or carpeting or anything like that. Doing that is going to help your brain also start to connect to these tissues again as well. Because like I've talked about in the end range control Facebook Live I did, so go back and rewatch that one. If you've not gone into a position, why would your brain remember how to actually access that? And so you have to reteach it, just like I would have to reteach myself some of the words in Spanish to be able to hold a coherent conversation that I could have done maybe many months ago, back when I was using it more frequently. Does that make sense? Okay, so you have 3 arches, not 1. You need to rebuild them all. This has a lot to do with intrinsic foot strength. I showed you 2 drills and then 1 action item you can start doing for that. Okay, next. How many of you have a big toe that points inward instead of straight forward? That will be a large percentage of people these days, because the big toe unfortunately gets squished when it's inside a shoe and a sock. And also you don't get to use it very often when you're doing your training, because, you know, I even see it at the gym I train at when I go to do strength work. They require that you be in closed toe shoes. And I get, you know, around that by wearing Vibram slippers that are like a sock basically. But even in a gym when you're training and you're trying to make your whole body better connected, they want you wearing shoes. And that is like putting duct tape around your foot and eliminating so much of the sensory perception that comes with what's happening in your foot as you train. If you look at kids' feet, you'll see it. Their big toe still points directly forward. But as they're in shoes for longer and longer, their big toe, it'll start pointing more and more inward. And adults, you probably have developed a bunion if you've had that for a long period of time. I will tell you this too. Bunions are also not genetic, just like the flat feet, okay? You can do things to reduce the pointing inward of the toe, but I'm less certain that you can actually eliminate a bunion once it's there, because that is actual tissue that your body has put in to say, hey, the big toe isn't pointing forward anymore. That's a really big deal. And so it starts laying down new hard tissue around that outer edge of like the ball joint, which is why bunion surgery is not a great idea, because your body was trying to put that there to do you some good. And then going in and shaving that off is literally undoing everything your body was trying to do. And remember, our bodies always have a reason for everything that they do. And it's your job to get in harmony with that and figure out how to connect to it, understand it, and then go forward with it, okay? So with bunions, I don't necessarily know, although tissue is constantly remodeling, maybe you can actually change the tissue quality there and like see it start to reduce after it's already developed. Hard to say, worth exploring though. But what you can do is actually start retraining the tissue around your big toe so that you can bring your big toe from being pointed too far inward towards the other toes closer to being pointed straight forward. Okay, you really can do it.